When we delve deep into the dusty pages of history, we stumble upon stories so extraordinary that they challenge the limits of our imagination. Ancient texts whisper of Vimana's celestial vehicles soaring across the skies, of weapons powerful enough to wipe entire cities from existence, and of mysterious passages leading to unknown realms beyond our world. These are not just myths or fantasies. They are fragments of a puzzle left behind by civilizations that rose and fell long before us. But among all these enigmas, one stands apart. One that is directly tied to our own future. Why? Because if these ancient claims hold even a grain of truth, then a destruction unlike any we have ever known could be waiting for our civilization, the same fate that erased those who came before us. One of these mysterious elements is Nibiru. If you remember, in a previous episode I spoke in detail about the Anunnaki. According to the controversial claims written by Zecharia Sitchin in his famous books, Nibiru is described as the home planet of these so-called divine beings. He even gives us detailed information about this planet, claiming that the Anunnaki, whose own world was weakening, came to Earth to mine gold, a resource they supposedly needed to repair and sustain their atmosphere. Now, Sitchin's works are fascinating to read, almost like a mixture of science, mythology, and science fiction. But as I already mentioned in my earlier videos, there is a major problem. In his writings, Sitchin often took fragments of real historical data, combined them with speculation, and then built an entire narrative around it. For example, he might find a word such as Anunu, meaning royal descendants from the sky, connect it with Nibiru, and then present it as if it was explicitly written on the Sumerian tablets. The truth is, some of these terms do exist, but not in the way Sitchin interprets them. The intermediate connections and the detailed storyline are largely his own imagination. This is very important to remember when researching Nibiru. So the big question arises, is the story of Nibiru completely invented? Or could there be a fragment of truth hidden behind the myth? To begin answering this, we must once again travel back in time to ancient Mesopotamia, but this time we will also bring modern astronomy with us. Our journey starts in the year 1840. Archaeologists, led by the legendary Austin Henry Layard, were excavating the ruins of Nineveh, once the mighty capital of Assyria. Deep beneath the sands, they uncovered something extraordinary. The royal library of King Ashurbanipal, a treasure of knowledge from the 7th century BC, containing thousands of clay tablets. Among these tablets lay one of the most important texts ever discovered, the Enuma Elish, often translated as When in the Skies. Though copied in the 1st millennium BC, its origins are believed to reach back to around 2000 BC, or even earlier. This epic text presents a symbolic story of creation, the birth of the heavens, humanity, and the war of the celestial gods. At first glance, the Enuma Elish reads like mythology filled with fantastical battles, divine beings, and cosmic drama. Yet as modern science and astronomy advanced, researchers began to ask, what if this is not merely a myth? What if the symbolic language is describing real celestial events from the formation of our solar system nearly 5 billion years ago? And that single question would change everything. Enuma Elish is one of the most extraordinary epics in ancient history, a symbolic masterpiece written by the Babylonians but rooted in the older Sumerian belief system. Over time, the story was reshaped in the Babylonian style, placing Marduk, the great god of Babylon and son of Enki, at its center. But here's the problem. According to the chronology of the Sumerian pantheon, Marduk came much later than the main deities such as Enlil and Enki. Yet in this epic, he suddenly appears as if he had always been one of the oldest and most powerful gods. Why? Most likely because Babylon, eager to elevate its own deity, rewrote the myths to make Marduk the hero. But what if this epic is not just mythology? What if Enuma Elish is actually describing the birth of the solar system? This interpretation is not unreasonable. Across many ancient cultures, planets were always associated with gods. Mars, for example, was named after the Roman god of war. Mercury was named after the divine messenger. With this perspective in mind, let's revisit the story through the lens of astronomy. In the beginning, the epic tells us there was only Apsu and Tiamat from their chaotic waters. Other beings were born. If we think symbolically, Apsu could represent the sun, while Tiamat might represent a massive super-Earth larger than today's Mercury. The story continues with the births of Lamu and Lahamu, followed by Anshar and Kishar. Interestingly, the text says that Anshar and Kishar were born later, yet they were much larger in size. Astronomically, this makes sense. First, the small rocky planets close to the Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars formed. Then, beyond the so-called snow line, the gas giants Jupiter, Saturn took shape, much larger than the rocky worlds. But what about Tiamat, the primordial giant? Modern astronomy gives us a clue. In 2015, supercomputer simulations revealed that for Jupiter's orbital migrations to make sense movements that shape the solar system, there must once have been a super-Earth between Mars and Jupiter, right where today's asteroid belt is located. According to these models, this lost planet played a crucial role in the early chaos of the solar system. Now compare that with the Enuma Elish. The myth describes Tiamat being confronted and eventually destroyed by Marduk. Symbolically, this could represent a massive planetary collision. Science in fact supports this idea. Theories such as the NICE model, the Late Heavy Bombardment, and even the Theia collision where a Mars-sized body struck the early Earth forming the Moon all point to an era of cataclysmic impacts and planetary destruction. In the epic, Marduk arms himself with powerful weapons interpreted by some as gravitational mechanics. Large planets can capture the moons of other worlds, just as Marduk is said to have taken additional weapons from other gods before battling Tiamat. Then comes the climactic war. Marduk advanced against Tiamat, shot an arrow, and split her body in two. From one half he made the heavens, and from the other, the earth. Myth or astronomy? Some scientists see this as a symbolic description of how the Earth and Moon were formed from the remains of a giant planetary collision. The asteroid belt itself may be the debris of this destruction. So what do we have here? An epic written thousands of years ago that not only speaks of gods and divine wars, but also mirrors events that modern science is still struggling to fully explain. Could it be that Enuma Elish encodes real cosmic history, the violent birth of our solar system? The more we compare the myth to scientific evidence, the more striking the parallels become. And that raises a bigger question. If the ancients preserved such knowledge in symbolic form, what else might their myths be telling us about the universe and our place within it? The idea of a celestial house of the gods is as old as humanity itself, and it still lives on today. This concept has been preserved through heavenly religions and ancient myths. Among the Sumerians, the Anunnaki were described as beings descending from the skies. In Hindu belief, the gods dwell in upper celestial realms such as Vaikuntha or Brahmaloka. In ancient Egypt, the afterlife was portrayed as the land of the gods. Greek mythology places the gods on Mount Olympus, high above the mortal world. This theme continues in the great monotheistic religions as well. In Islamic tradition, prophets such as Enoch, who is said to have entered the divine realm through a door of fire, or Ezekiel, and Jesus, who were taken to the heavenly level, are all part of this same motif. The Prophet Muhammad's night journey is also central, riding a winged steed, ascending through the heavens, until the angel Gabriel tells him, "From here you must go on alone." In short, throughout history we repeatedly encounter this symbol, a realm above us, the dwelling place of God or of the gods. And crucially, ancient civilizations often pointed to specific places in the sky. The Egyptian pyramids, for example, were aligned to mirror the Orion belt, while the shaft of the king's chamber points directly at the rising of Sirius. This was no accident. The pharaoh's soul was believed to journey to Sirius, to be reunited with the gods. Similarly, the pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico are aligned with the Orion constellation. The ancients even knew that Sirius is not one star, but a binary system. The ancient Turks also revered Sirius, Their creation myth, the legend of the wolf, traces its origin to this very star. In mythology, Sirius is often called the Great Dog or even the Great Wolf. Across cultures, one pattern emerges. Divinity resides in the heavens, often linked to Orion and especially Sirius. This theme reaches its peak in the Quran itself, in Surah An-Naim, the star. Here, Sirius is mentioned directly, with the declaration that Allah is the creator of its inhabitants. This is perhaps the clearest statement, tying the heavens, the stars, and the divine together. But what does all this have to do with Nibiru? The connection comes from the controversial interpretations of Zecharia Sitchin, who insisted that Nibiru was a distant planet, home of the Anunnaki. Yet, as I have explained before, this claim goes no further than his own speculation. In the Sumerian texts, the word Nibiru does not describe a planet at all. The so-called planet Sitchin spoke of is actually Marduk, a body that appears in Mesopotamian tablets. But scientifically, even if such a planet existed on the far edge of our solar system, life there would be impossible. Beyond the habitable zone, sunlight is too weak. Gas giants like Jupiter reach 150°C in their upper atmosphere, and rocky planets further out would be even colder. Under such crushing pressure and lack of warmth, no advanced civilization could arise, certainly not one capable of interstellar travel. So does this mean Nibiru is pure fantasy? Not quite. The fact that Sitchin's claim is flawed does not make the entire subject meaningless. On the tablets, the word Nibiru actually refers to a point in the sky, often interpreted as a crossing or a gateway. Historians still debate its meaning, but many agree it points to a celestial passage. And here is where things become fascinating. In many traditions we find the same imagery. Enoch's door of fire in Jewish texts, the Sidrat al-Muntaha in Islamic tradition, the final boundary beyond which only God resides, the Bifrost Bridge in Norse mythology, a rainbow path linking realms of men and gods. All of these are portals, gateways between worlds, exactly what Nibiru may have symbolized. If so, Nibiru was never meant to be a planet at all, but a gate of the gods. The epic of Enuma Elish even hints at this, describing cosmic events and the ordering of the heavens. If one day older tablets are discovered, tablets that describe these ideas more clearly, it could force us to rewrite history. Imagine, civilizations thousands of years ago somehow knew how the solar system was formed. This leaves us with two astonishing possibilities. Ancient civilizations were far more advanced than we believe, or beings from the skies shared this knowledge with them. Either way, the mystery of Nibiru takes us far beyond myths. It forces us to ask, were our ancestors merely imagining the realm of the gods, or were they describing something real? To summarize, today, thanks to Zecharia Sitchin and his popular books, many people associate the idea of Nibiru with the mysterious planet X. Yet, as I mentioned earlier, the term Nibiru was not originally used in the ancient epics to describe a planet. Presenting it as a physical world inhabited by advanced beings is, at best, a highly speculative claim. Another misconception Sitchin put forward is that this planet allegedly approaches Earth every 3,600 years. However, history provides not a single reliable record of such an event. And this is important, because ancient civilizations were exceptionally skilled observers of the skies. If a massive planet several times larger than Earth had entered our solar system within human memory, it would have left undeniable traces: catastrophic earthquakes, asteroid impacts, disruptions of planetary orbits, destruction on a scale far beyond imagination. Yet, no such records exist. What we do see, in myths, religious texts, and monumental architecture, is a recurring theme: humanity looking upward. Ancient cultures consistently direct our gaze to the heavens, to the stars, and most often, to Sirius, the brightest star in our sky. Was Sirius truly the dwelling place of gods or extraterrestrials, as some claim? Or was it simply a celestial beacon of unmatched brilliance? Or perhaps it symbolized the highest divine realm, the ultimate floor of the heavens, as suggested in various religious traditions? For now, these questions remain unanswered. Still, the mystery endures. Perhaps one day we will send a message across the 8.6 light-years separating us from Sirius and whisper a cosmic hello. And who knows, maybe, just as ancient civilizations believed, those who once visited from the stars will return again. Whatever the truth may be, let us hope that the terrifying scenario described in the Enuma Elish epic or in Sitchin's dramatic interpretations never proves real. Because if a rogue planet of such immense size were ever to re-enter our solar system, the consequences for Earth would be catastrophic. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe, like, and share. It is the greatest support you can give for the growth of this channel. This topic was chosen upon your request, and as always, you are welcome to suggest future themes in the comments below. Until we meet again next week, take care, and keep looking to the stars.